Yeah, my name's Joseph Phillips, SZE, and I was born in Secretary General Hospital to my mother, and there was four of us. I'm the youngest of four. John's the second eldest of four. It was tough in them days because there's tons of prejudice about it. If it was Chinese, you'd get it all the time. Chinky chonky Chinaman and things like that. We knew how to fight. So it didn't last that long. I mean, his mother, my grandmother, she gave a lot of help to my mother. She was always supportive of her, as was Uncle Joey. They were supportive of everything my mother did. She was working 7 days a week just to put a crust on the table. We didn't actually miss our father because we didn't have one. So we didn't know who he was. All we knew is that we ever knew was Uncle Joey as our father, and my mother bringing in the bacon and my grandmother supporting her. So that's there was no sense of a father at all. When my mother got married again, there was a difference. I mean, I don't know. I stayed at home in Edgerton Street with my grandmother and Uncle Joey, and they all to 34.
My dad lived with
yeah.
Split the family up in two.
And that's when it started. Even then, I don't think we picked up on the fact that, I know my mother worked hard, but I don't think that we picked up on the fact
it was
that
easier
father
for Joe
was
because
missing,
he's only a baby, don't forget. But I remember being a bit lonely. I do remember that. When you go to school and you find out that, you know, other children who've got a dad, and I'll be quite honest with you, it's very lonely. My name's John C. And I was born in Canning Street. In the days you got weighed with scales at home. I broke the scales. It was a fact. I was that big, probably. And I got told by my mother I broke the scales, so I live with that. But regarding missing my father, I did meet him once because in them days, you know, you used to go up a Sunday, and we used to go to Auntie Lil's, which is in Grove Street in Liverpool. And I met my father, but I didn't know who he was because I was only young. But I just vividly remember, and his friend was, what was his name? Quang. So he must have visited his friend, Quang, and I was there. I was brought there for him to see, probably. And he tried to take me and Joe away, right? And next minute, there was no real vision of him being at home all the time. So, as it regarding being, did I miss him? Yes, I did. And I still miss him now. And I still wonder, I must have relations, and I don't even know who they are. And it'd be nice to find out just who they are. And it'll help the loneliness that I carry to this day, as I speak now. I've got to take a deep breath because obviously it's upsetting. And for people to get picked up from the street and headed into vans and put on ships, never to return. And at the time, what I don't know if this is a fact, but the police in Liverpool wouldn't act. So they had to send the police from London to do the dirty work. So they were coming home from work and they had families and they were just picked up and Shanghai. That's probably where the word goes. Shanghai means you're gone, you know. So that's what I remember of being lonely, and I carried that loneliness. And there's a plaque there. I think it's probably about 4x4 or something, apologising, you know, for what they done. You know, it's just a few words, you know. They broke up families, they left people living as I, probably, lonely. And that loneliness will never leave it, that you'll never know. And it could be down to all the authorities. And don't forget, the sailors also brought cargo unarmed, but they still done. Once the war finished, they moved on, and I think that's deadly, deadly wrong. To leave children such as myself, such as my brother and my sisters, my mother, I think it's deadly wrong. And I think somebody should apologise. But I don't think it'll happen. I don't think that'll happen.
When did you realise that the men had been deported?
All of a sudden, you didn't see him.
I don't think we realised until the last 5 years.
I mean, my mother's not going to say your dad's been taken away.
She wouldn't know. She didn't know. She wouldn't know. The first time I was aware that there was an issue is that when I got married and there was no name of my father on my birth certificate, although John had Arlungsey on his. So that was the first thing. I approached my mother about that. I said, well, why has my father's name? Because you think all different types of things.
He thought he was my stepbrother.
Was something, yeah. It was, you know, the things that go through you, you're a human being, you become suspicious of things. Anyway, my mother didn't know. She just told me there was trouble in Chinatown and that he'd left her. He just left her with the 4 of us. So that was the first time. Give me an inkling that something wasn't quite right. But when I only found out when our father was deported, it was 5 years ago. It wasn't a thing because I changed my name. Because I felt exactly like my mother, well, if you desert us, what allegiance do I have to you? And then we started, well, I do a lot of ancestry now. And I thought it was interesting that we should take a DNA test, both John and I, because, you know, you've got, with all these suspicions, all these things come up, you say to yourself, well, is he my full brother or is he my half brother? But as it happened, when it came back from ancestry, is that my full brothers? which things, but as far as knowing this is concerned, I would say it was 4 or 5 years ago that I learned, and it's only in the last couple of years that I've really started to want to know what's happened, because it is absolutely atrocious that people, as John said, can be lifted up and their families had to struggle most of their lives thinking who the father was. And we still don't know. We're still searching.
Right to this day.
So you got his name?
Well, we know his name, Arlungsey.
So there's passenger lists and things, isn't there?
Well, he worked with the Blue Funnel, like all the Chinese did.
And he was a landsman, I found that out the other day. Because going through answers, they actually describe what people did. But again, this is an English thing, this, is that people can be very ignorant. And some of those things, the coolies, these coolies was working for us, couldn't even, don't bother about spelling the name properly. So you've got to get to the bottom of this. This is, well, I never thought of it as racist, but you do now.
Exactly,
you know exactly.
Used and abused.
Yeah, well, your third class citizens. That's what you was, and that's where they was left. and it's only going to take the likes of, as I think I've said this before, we haven't got many years left in us. Whether we ever found what happened to him, no idea. Whether we know whether we've got Chinese family, we don't know. But we'll still look. We will still look.
But can you imagine the loneliness that you bear? It's unexplainable.
Do you feel it more deeply than me? I don't. John does feel like he misses him. To me, I never knew him, so it made no difference to me. The only thing is now is that I do know what happened to him. So all that hate I carried for all those years of him, until it's explained properly what had happened to him, disappeared then. It completely was a non-entity after I found out that people were lifted up off the street and just taken away.
No notification, no nothing.
So,
Or, you know, we were too young to even recognise anything at that point in time.
as I said, I've only found out lately. It's only through Ancestry that I found out. And when the girls and that started saying, it was on Facebook and everybody started talking about this deportation, because most of my career was in business and I had very little time to research my family history. Made no difference to me one way or the other at
No,
that
wouldn't
time.
do it at the time, Joe.
No, I had no feelings towards it. I have now, obviously, because there's an injustice and the injustice needs to be put right. Just say where they are. If you ask ordinary people in this world, because don't forget, we're British born. Whether we look Chinese or not, we're British born. And I think everybody in this country would like to know who the father is. There's nothing wrong in that. And for this government,
It's an injustice.
This Labour
That's
government
what it
at that
is.
time, to take that away from you, is absolutely atrocious, really. And they need to answer. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered.